I'm going to go ahead and call this court into session. This is the appeal for Otto Delmar.
Shoot him.
Representative for the district
I don't have a
attorney's
gun.
office will be Saoirse O'Sullivan. The representative for Mr. Otto Delmar will be Murphy Braun. Now I'm going to go over the statement of claim. Mr. Otto Delmar alleges he was unlawfully detained by the San Andreas State Police Trooper Jonathan Brown on March 14, 2019, without any probable cause or reasonable suspicion. Mr. Delmar was convicted and served his time on several charges relating to and resulting from the attempt to detain him by Trooper Brown. Mr. Delmar wishes to expunge from his record the detainment and the arrest was in violation of his rights. Are both sides prepared to give their opening for this appeal?
Yes, Your Honor.
I need 1 minute. Yes, Your Honor. I'm having a minor health issue, and I just need to take something out of my pockets and put it in my mouth, and I'll be right back.
All right.
I mean, in reality, the worst thing that can happen to me right here, Chad, is nothing. So, I think we'll be okay. I think we'll be okay, my dudes. I might not even go for that long, in all honesty, so... This is where a grenade would be good. Just drop it in the courtroom and walk out.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. I've given the court one warning, the courtroom. All right. Any outbursts, any antics, any grab assing, things like that, you'll be removed from the courthouse. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh, what? What's the matter?
I tripped.
Why do I hate XQC? Literally never talked to him, I do. Ever.
And, I had to take care of it.
It's understandable. That's understandable. All right. Are both sides prepared to give their opening for this appeal?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Braun, you may proceed with your opening on this appeal for your client.
Thank you, Your Honor. Distinguished judges, ladies and gentlemen of the court, on 3/14/2019, my client, Mr. Delmar, was unlawfully detained by SASP Trooper Jonathan Brown. He was stopped and told to get up against the wall by Trooper Brown as he was just minding his own business. Now, as to the evidence we wish to discuss here today, I'm going to bring up a key word: apparently. Apparently, my client, Mr. Delmar, had fled from Trooper Brown on 3/13/2019. Apparently, Trooper Brown was so certain of the identity of my client that he didn't bother, apparently, to issue a search warrant. Apparently, didn't put out a bolo for Mr. Delmar. And apparently was so certain of who he saw who fled from him, apparently, that he did not necessarily write up an incident report about my client apparently fleeing from him. On 3/14, my client was minding his own business at Pillbox Medical when he was aggressively threatened and detained by Trooper Brown for probable cause and reasonable suspicion that apparently just wasn't there. And I'll prove that in court here today. My client wishes to expunge the relevant charges from his record, as the detainment was a violation of his rights. He stands remorseful for the actions that unfolded following the attempt to detain him.
I still think we're gonna get fucked, but
And
we'll
he
see.
does not wish to
You know.
recoup any fines associated with that sentence, and he has served his time and thought long and hard about his actions. But given the violation of his rights that he alleges here today, he does wish to expunge those charges. Thank you, Your Honor.
Yo, Slayer, thank you for the tier 1.
Thank you, Mr. Braun. Miss O'Sullivan?
Thank you. Judges, honorable judges, people of the witness stand, and everyone else, I thank you for coming. I'm gonna make this brief. The idea that Mr. Delmar's rights were violated is ridiculous. There was absolute probable cause that I will be quite clearly outlining with Mr. Trooper Braun here.
Fucking hell, chat.
Not only did Mr. Delmar flee from police the day before, he didn't help his case by opening fire on officers who were in no way violent towards him with a Class 2 weapon. If that doesn't spell guilt, I do not know what does. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss O'Sullivan. Mr. Braun, you prepared to call your first witness, since this is your appeal, sir?
Yes, Your Honor. I would like to call Frank Scaletta to the stand.
All right. Mr. Scaletta, will you please step up? And Bailiff, will you please
Fucking
swear in
chat,
Mr.
dude.
Scaletta?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Scaletta, do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you Jess?
I do.
Been sworn in, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Scaletta, I'll remind you at this time that you're now under oath. Perjury is a serious crime in this city. Mr. Braun, you may proceed.
Yo, Slayer, thank you for the sub, dude.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Scaletta, how are you doing today?
I'm delightful, Mr. Braun. How about yourself?
Wonderful.
That's good.
On the day in question, the 14th, were you with Mr. Delmar at the Pillbox Medical Center
I was.
around 6:28?
I was.
Okay. What were you and Mr. Delmar doing at Pillbox Medical?
You know what? Our friends get hurt all the time. I don't even fully remember. We stopped there. We were parked, hanging out, chatting. I think he went inside to get his knee checked, or maybe to check on somebody. I don't really know. I was on the phone, checking up on some stuff. My boys were on their phones too. We were all pretty busy. Just it was a good place to park up and see what was going on. I assume he had
Were you
business there. Being maybe he was hurt, maybe a friend was hurt. Didn't really ask.
So you'd say you were just minding your own business, not bothering
Absolutely.
anybody.
Absolutely.
Okay. And so at some point in
Fuck that.
time, law enforcement appears. How did that, in your own words, how did that turn about?
Aggressively. Cops showed up, started yelling at Otto. Face the wall, face the wall, face the wall. He was asking for a reason. What did I do? What did I do? What's going on? Talk to me. Face the wall, face the wall, face the wall. It was quick, man.
Okay. And from there, you know, things escalated rather quickly, did they not?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. It was pretty quick, yeah.
Did you at any point feel in fear for your safety or for your lives, for your life during this encounter?
Absolutely. It felt very targeted.
And again, you had no reason to believe that either of you were breaking the law in any way while you were at Pillbox Medical?
Ah, not at all. Parked properly and everything.
The poor medic. Yeah,
Did,
I'll bring that up, don't
Is
worry.
it common for you to see law enforcement just walk up to a person and tell them to get up against the wall like that?
Usually, if they're messing with them, maybe they got a rapport with the guy. They're just playing around, trying to shake him up. But no, this appeared to me like a very, very off the books shakedown.
And do you know my client, Mr. Delmar, to be some sort of dangerous criminal?
No.
The biggest lie ever told in court.
I think that'll do it for now, Your Honor.
Oh, fuck.
So, Sullivan, do you have any questions for this witness?
I do. Just a brief pair of questions here. Mr. Scaletta, how are you today?
I'm delightful. Delightful indeed.
Thank you for appearing with us today. So I have just a couple of questions here.
Fuck up, Chad.
When
I
the
shouldn't have
officers
enabled
approached,
that mode.
Mr. Delmar, did they address you directly?
Did they address me directly? No.
Yeah, I did. So why then did you feel endangered? Why did you
Why
fear for
did I
your
put
own
that
life?
emote on?
I saw the man that I arrived to the hospital with being harassed, and I was worried for my friend.
But you said you also feared for your own life. Why did you say that?
If I was with a man that was being targeted for an off-the-books operation of some sort, I
should text him.
He's my friend, eh? I saw it,
Why?
you know?
Why then would you believe this to be some sort of off-the-books operation? What led you to believe that this would be anything other than a legitimate stop?
Otto's a good guy. He's a good guy. As far as I know, they had no reason to be hassling him, and they were just picking on him.
As far as you know, apparently, I see. Alright, no further questions, thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Braun, any more questions?
I have one further redirect.
Yes. All right. Just based off the questions he asked, please.
Absolutely. I just have one or two questions on that regard. Mr. Scaletta, in regards to you fearing for your safety, at what point did Trooper Brown, arm himself with a firearm?
Trooper Brown was not the only officer there. There was an officer who I don't believe I ever got his name, and his gun was out before I even exited the car.
The police were showing force.
Absolutely, they were sending a
and displaying
message
firearms
very clearly.
as they arrived. Okay.
Very absolutely.
No further questions.
I'd like to redirect.
Recross.
May proceed. Recross.
Sorry.
Mrs. Sullivan.
Sorry, blood sugar. Mr.
Thanks, Chad.
Scaletta, did you happen to recognize the weapons that the officers you say had in hands?
Did I happen to recognize their weapons? Yeah, they were.
Aye, were they
I think they
guns
were called-
or were they tasers?
I believe they were guns. M9 Beretta.
See, alright, no further questions.
All right. Mr. Scaletta, you may step down at this time.
Absolutely, Your Honor.
Mr. Braun, any more witnesses that you'd like to call?
I would like to call my client, Mr. Delmar, to the stand.
All right, Mr. Delmar, will you please approach? Are you bored, Mr. Delmar?
Not at all.
All right, you may swear in the witness.
Alright, Mr. Delmar, do you just want to put your hand on your heart and repeat after
Use
me?
Mitch.
I swear
Use
to tell
Mitch.
the
Coop, this is my courthouse. She will use Jess.
Mitch.
swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you, Jess.
Yes.
Alright, he's been sworn in, Your Honor.
Thank you, bailiff. Mr. Delmar, I remind you at this time you are under oath, and perjury is a serious crime in this city.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Braun, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Delmar, how are you doing today?
Fantastic.
All right, Mr. Delmar. Prior to the date in question, had you had any other encounters with the law, prior convictions, felonies, spending time in jail?
I have never been in jail before. No, I did actually talk to some police officers about trying to rehabilitate people that would leave jail and give them a job on exit.
That sounds very noble. Your record, which I looked into, shows that prior to this incident you had a single citation for jaywalking and absolutely nothing else. Nothing else. No convictions. Nothing. So, would you say that you're an upstanding citizen, Mr. Delmar?
Yes, I consider myself a good person in society.
Okay. Are you aware of any reason why Trooper Brown might have wanted to stop and detain you on March the 14th?
No, absolutely no reason, sir.
Okay. Was it surprising when law enforcement showed up armed and aggressively told you to get up against the wall?
Yes.
Objection. Bleeding.
Overruled.
Yes, I found it very out of place. I had injuries to my shoulder from a cougar attack not too long ago, in which an officer actually aided me previously. I was told to go back to the hospital every day because it was a very severe wound. And I walked in, you know, they had guns out and were automatically screaming at me. I've never felt so threatened in my life.
And are you a person who's aware of their rights, Mr. Delmar?
I mean, to an extent, yes. I think a lot of it. Yeah, I believe I understand most of the basic rights of a human being.
Okay. And I'm gonna ask you the same thing I asked Mr. Scaletta. While you were at Pillbox Medical, were you doing anything suspicious? Remember, perjury is a crime. You can go to jail for it. Keep that in mind. You are under oath. You know, were you minding your own business? Taking
Yes.
care of medical tasks?
There's doctor reports from I believe Dr. Choi is her name. I had massive wounds on my shoulder, in which I was going there on a daily basis to get checked up. Everything I did was something that a normal person would do. We drove up in the car. I was a passenger to the vehicle. It was parked legally. I walked to the front of the vehicle, started limping in towards the hospital, in which I was approached at that point.
Okay. Now, we got to get to the elephant in the room, Mr. Delmar. Was there perhaps any indication to Trooper Brown that you might have been significantly armed as you were taking care of your medical concerns at Pillbox?
No.
Have you done your time and paid your dues for your actions following that detainment, Mr. Delmar?
Yes. More than you can imagine. It's actually very difficult to sleep at night now.
So you're remorseful for what happened?
Very much so.
Well, if having some time to reflect, would you say that that situation caused you to fear for your life to such a degree that those actions may have been taken?
Yes. I mean, I watch a lot of YouTube videos. It's probably got the worst of me in a lot of circumstances. I know there's videos cut out of police doing things that are improper, and it does mess with you. They're not going to post every good video, obviously, but I mean, as an end result, I think a lot is said when the medic was down on the ground bleeding because of gunshot wounds to from the police officer.
So the police actually shot and wounded a medic in this situation.
Yes, that is true. There was a medic standing right next to me while we were having this conversation, and they did open fire and shoot the medic.
Okay, Mr. Delmar, your record does indicate you were charged for your actions following the attempted detainment, but there is no preceding charge which may have justified that stop. Were you convicted of anything you were being detained for in the first place?
That depends. Is a traffic stop a form of detainment? I'm not sure.
No, what I'm asking is, Trooper Brown was detaining you allegedly because you fled from him the day prior. Were you charged with
no.
resisting arrest for
Not
that
at all.
incident?
No, not at all. So Trooper Brown, I saw at the strip club. He was there with his friend at the strip club. I'm not sure what they were doing there. I'm not sure if they went to a call or whether they just sort of looked like they were relaxing around, lounging around at the strip club, just, you know, conversing with people. I don't know why they would hang around there, but I walked up, started talking to the officers, seeing how they were going, and then I believe it was Mr. Brown. I'm not 100% sure of this. Came up to me and said, "Do you have a form of identification, please?" And I said, "No, it's in my vehicle. I can go grab it for you." He said, "That's okay, sure." So I walked out to my vehicle. I got a phone call on the way there, and I said to him, "I need to leave. I've got some things going on." I left, dealt with a few things. I came back. I talked to the police, and everything seemed normal. I walked up to the police myself and had a conversation because I did, in fact, hear there was a situation that happened there after I left, just to make sure everything was fine.
Oh, do you recall the officer you spoke to after you returned?
I believe it was a Mr. Bug or something like that. Yes, it was a sheriff for sure.
Okay, all right. So that is what occurred in the incident where allegedly you had fled from Trooper Brown. You had simply gone to get your ID and gone and dealt with some other things and returned as quickly as you could.
Well, I mean, yeah, it did feel somewhat out of place, though. I said I'd go to my vehicle. He never said anything about a detainment or anything like that. So I actually had my vehicle parked across the road in the alley across from the strip club, next to the 7-Eleven, I believe it is. So it was a 200-meter walk, and he, in fact, followed me the entire way, breathing down my neck in a manner that just felt unnatural of a police officer.
So he didn't try to detain you, but he followed you.
No, not at all. He never said anything about wanting to detain me. He just wanted to get an identification and have a conversation, I believe.
Okay. All right. And just to confirm, I know you weren't convicted of resisting arrest for that occasion the following day, but did that enter the conversation whatsoever once you were apprehended on the charges following the detainment?
No, that was not even mentioned. They didn't even question me about anything. There was no conversation had apart from, "Here are your charges. You're going to jail."
So you were never told at any time why you were being detained in the first place?
No. The only thing that happened, he said, he screamed, actually, my name, Otto Delmar, specifically. Then he said, "Get up against the fucking wall." Excuse my language. But he swore multiple times while smiling at me. I could hear it in his voice while he was yelling at me that it was actually, there was a grin in what he was saying. And yes, he just screamed a few times to get up against the wall. I asked, in a calm manner, I was not aggressive in any way whatsoever. I said, "What's this about, officer? I'm going to get a checkup. You know, what's going on? What's happening? Can you please talk to me?" And he said, "No, get up against the fucking wall. Get up against the fucking wall." He didn't. I don't believe he even identified himself or anything like that. So I just felt it just felt strange yet again. And yes, this was the same man following me at the strip club previously. I'm quite confident it is, yes.
All right, thank you, Mr. Delmar.
The rights don't mean shit, though.
I don't think I have any further questions for you at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Braun. Miss O'Sullivan, your witness.
Thank you. Hello, Mr. Delmar. It's nice to meet you. How are you doing?
Fantastic, man. Fantastic. A little mentally drained, obviously, but I'm doing okay.
Of course. I just have a few questions as for you as well. So you say that you told the officer that you had some things to do, and then you left in your vehicle. Did you wait for the officer to confirm that he had heard what you said?
He was literally standing right behind me, breathing down my neck, so he 100% would have heard what I said.
But you cannot prove that he understood what you said, or allegedly to him.
only as much as I can prove to you that I can understand what you're saying now and what you can that you can understand what I'm saying now. So yes, if what I say here can be used as evidence, I don't see why that couldn't be.
Well, the difference here, sir, is that you and I are having a dialogue. From what you're saying, you simply spoke at him and left without confirming that he, if you did say something to him, that you actually did that. So
No,
that's why I'm
he was
asking,
talking
sir.
to me as we crossed the road. We had a conversation. There was dialogue. Then I said, I'm getting a phone call. I had the phone call, and then I said I have to go. I'm leaving.
Alright, so you just felt like, despite that an officer clearly needed your attention and wanted your ID, you felt like it was okay to just get in your car and leave without so much as a by your leave?
I mean, yes. If you're not being detained, you're allowed to leave. That's the law, ma'am. You should know that.
Alright, so let's skip to the next day then. I'm curious, did you also see weapons in the officer's hands when they approached?
Not, from my memory, they came from the side, so I cannot confirm they had weapons in their hands at that point. But they definitely had weapons drawn once they started talking to me. They both had weapons out within a few moments. I was eye level, so I wasn't really looking at hands and stuff. I was sort of just trying to calculate what was going on. I'm walking into a hospital to get help here, and it sort of just come out of nowhere.
Alright, so you say they were screaming. Did anyone else react to said screaming?
Well, everybody went quiet very quick, so I guess. And when I say they, I believe it was the trooper was screaming, nobody else. The other officer was just standing there, sort of, just next to him, sort of pushing me up against the wall, cornering me, so to speak.
Alright, so if you didn't really notice the weapons in their hands, what made you feel so threatened that you felt the need to pull out a Class 2 weapon and open fire?
Oh no, I said I did notice the weapons, just not immediately. It wasn't a split-second decision. There was a long conversation of him screaming at me and me asking what is happening, in which he did have the weapon out at that point. Once I had turned around, I did notice the weapon. It was when he was walking up. I'm not sure if they had weapons out at that point.
But you still felt it necessary to pull out a weapon and fire upon two officers?
Yes, I felt very threatened.
And why? Why? Did they brandish the weapons at you?
Yes, they were screaming at me. I believe the trooper alone did point the weapon at me. I'm not sure of the other person. I couldn't really see him out of the corner of my eye that well. And was demanding me to get up against the wall while I was severely injured, going to speak to medical personnel. I felt I was scared. I was confused and I was scared. I was on a lot of drugs. It was just a very scary situation for me.
But you do realize that we're in the United States and the police, if they need to detain you, why would you not simply stop and I apologize, comply long enough to find out what's going on instead of simply, why would you feel the need to defend yourself at that point?
Because, as you also know, in the American rights, we have rights. That's why.
Alright, no further questions.
Thank you, Miss O'Sullivan. Mr. Braun.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just on the subjects she covered, Mr. Delmar. Again, I just want to ask. You were convicted on all of these charges, correct? You have served your time.
That's
you have
correct,
paid
sir.
The price.
Oh, I'm still
your
paying the price.
decisions that
I
day.
think the mental anguish is the price I'll be paying for the rest of my life, rather than the sentence itself.
Are you bringing this to court because you want to undo the punishment you've already endured for this decision?
I don't. If I could take back shooting somebody, I would. I mean, the end result was a medic even being shot by the police at the same time. I honestly have nightmares about it. I understand that I feel like I should be punished for what's happened, but at the same time, I feel like I've been neglected by society as a whole.
So you've brought this to court because you have questions about your rights. Is that correct, sir?
Yes.
Okay. Nothing further.
Ms. O'Sullivan?
Nothing further.
All right, Mr. Delmar, you may step down at this time.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Braun, do you have any further witnesses to call at this time, sir?
I'd like to call SASP Trooper Jonathan Brown to the stand, please.
All right, Trooper Brown, will you please approach? Bailiff, will you please swear in?
Yo,
Trooper
Bomb,
Brown?
thank you for the tier 1 Just Hopes. Thank you for the 14 months, dude.
Trooper Brown, do you swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you
I sort of...
best?
I do.
Been sworn in, you're on it.
Thank you, Bailiff. Trooper Brown, I will remind you at this time you're under oath, sir, and perjury is a serious crime in this city.
The thing is, the police can
Brown,
lie,
you
and
may
they're going to believe the
proceed.
police over me, so... The good
Thank
thing
you, Your
was... They didn't burn
Trooper Brown, how are you
Frankie
doing today?
to make him look like a criminal,
Doing quite well,
so
sir. How
we
are
were
you?
lucky, honestly.
Very good, very good.
I can't believe they
Trooper
didn't bring
Brown,
that shit
on
up.
3 to 13th, did you encounter my client, Mr. Delmar, or someone fitting his general appearance outside or inside the nightclub?
Yes, sir. I was outside the nightclub.
Okay, well, describe for me the interaction that you had with my client, Mr. Delmar.
Yo, 12 and Jesus, thanks for the
So,
subs,
Ron,
dudes.
we were there. There were 3 officers there at the Vanilla Unicorn, sir. Community policing a rap battle event. Mr. Delmar and I were stood off to the side, a little ways away from the crowd. He was standing next to, I believe, a Joe Kane. I was sitting there talking to Mr. Kane as well as Mr. Delmar. When Mr. Delmar
Thank you,
was
Massacre.
physically all, touching his nose, sir. He was, he had some white powdery substance underneath his nose that he was putting attention to, which caught my eye. And that's when I asked him to step aside. That way we could get away from everybody else.
I had
enough that we
coke
could talk,
on my nose, by the way,
privately.
chat.
It's a matter
So we
between
could
me
still
and
get
him.
fucked.
At which point then I asked him for his identification. He said that it was in his car. I said, okay, I'm going ahead and bring a drug-sniffing dog down here, sir. We're going to figure out what exactly is underneath your nose. He said, don't worry about it. We just went to a carnival. I said, well, we're going to worry about it, sir. And I asked him, let's go get your ID. I followed him across the street over to the 24/7 convenience store. At which point he got inside his vehicle and he fled from me with me yelling behind him, hey, stop, police. At no point did I ever get his ID.
So how would he have known my name?
Okay. So you never got my client's ID.
No, sir. He fled from us
So, of
before
course-
we could.
So of course you could not have put out a proper arrest warrant for my client, Mr. Delmar.
Yes, sir.
And that is why you didn't.
Yes, sir. That is why I did not write a arrest citation, and I was also stabbed right after the incident, about 2 to 3 minutes, and I was sent to the hospital on bed rest for the rest of the evening, so I could not investigate the incident any further.
So that would be why you did not put out a bolo for a general description of my client.
Elmix,
That is
thank you for the
correct.
sub.
And why there's
That's
no
good, thank you.
incident report for the encounter at the nightclub.
I did not have a legal name, sir, to go off of, so I cannot write a warrant, sir, for someone's who ID. I cannot positively identify as that man written. But Mr. Trooper Ripley, sir, of the San Andreas State Police, did tell me his name was Otto. Mr. Ripley was
I don't think Ripley was there.
responded directly to Mr. Otto fleeing from the police in a marked SASP cruiser. He was also the officer coming with the drug-sniffing dog.
Wait, how the fuck did they put that together? Otto, he wasn't
Okay, so
there,
you
like he
did
didn't
have
see
a
me.
name.
I had a name, sir, but I could not confirm that name.
Oh, okay. There you go. That's weird.
Okay,
I
so-
personally, sir, cannot write a warrant for someone who I do not know their name.
Where's Ripley,
but you can't write
guys?
some sort of report, something to refer back to.
Where's
let's say,
Ripley?
in a court of law.
Ripley's the cop we
reason
shot
I did not
yesterday.
write a report or investigate any further is I was stabbed about 2 to 3 minutes after the incident and was put on bed rest the rest of the night.
Okay, so having been stabbed, traumatic event, and operating entirely based on your own recollection of an event just before a traumatic event for yourself, operating solely from memory, which is extremely flawed. You fingered my client out of a group of people at Pillbox Medical, and without any sort of reporting or arrest warrant of any kind, you just decided to detain him then and there and effect a Terry frisk or a full search of my client. On what basis?
Sir, at no point did
Did
I
he
ever
had a little
attempt
powder
to
on his
frisk your-
nose?
At no point, sir, did I ever attempt to frisk your client or search your client. I was detaining him, sir, because he fled from me before, for his safety and my safety.
Apparently.
Sir, your client was wearing the same exact clothes. I was the one who spoke to him. Like your client said, we were very close to one another. It was to the point where he was in the same exact clothes. It was your client, sir. I think you and I both know we can, when we know someone, especially from just the night before, we can identify who that person is.
So why can't he
We
make a
have
warrant?
established that the person is one and the same. My client has gone on record under oath, confirming that he was the person at the nightclub. That is not.
I think we're gonna get
that
fucked.
is not in question.
We'll see though.
Again, I must ask you, Trooper Brown, was my client charged and convicted of any resisting arrest or evading charges relevant to the situation on 313?
This is a good point
Sir,
though.
I was not his arresting officer. You would have to ask Mr. Williams.
Understood, Trooper Brown. I have nothing further for you.
Miss O'Sullivan, your witness again.
Ah, thank you.
He was there while I was getting arrested, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, Trooper Brown. It's nice to see you again.
Hello,
so,
madam.
Fucking chat. Oi!
Would you
Oi,
say
mate.
that you find yourself at all confused about the events that happened on the night that you were at the Unicorn?
Madam, I don't know why he ran from us. We were never able to investigate the incident. Like I said, I can't legally write a warrant or anything for someone who I do not have his his license in front of me or his full legal name. And like I said, I would have investigated it further, madam, but like I said, I was stabbed and put on bed rest the rest of the night.
Yeah, no, I meant, sir, that you recall the night with clarity, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When you were following Mr. Delmar to his vehicle, did he at any point receive a phone call?
No, ma'am, I do not believe so.
What? I have my phone out.
So
What a
he
lying
didn't
cunt.
turn around and say to you that he had somewhere to be before getting in his car and driving away?
No, ma'am, he was just saying that as soon as he got in his car, he said he had to go. As soon as he got in his car, and that's when I told him to stop.
Alright. Then the next day at the
He's lying.
hospital, you were able to identify him by
Well, I think
sight,
he is.
correct?
I swear I stopped to get
Yes,
my phone
ma'am,
out.
sight, voice.
I even RP'd it.
And did he respond when you called him by the name that you were given?
Yes, ma'am, he did.
So you were able to get a positive identification of the man that was at the Unicorn the night before?
Yes, ma'am. He referenced those said events while I was talking to him, trying to order him up against the wall.
Alright. Did you have at any point a gun in your hands?
No, ma'am. I was armed with a taser.
And I'm sorry, EMS Heidi Saris, she was injured at the same time, correct?
Yes, ma'am. She was struck by my taser prongs as I was falling to the ground after being shot.
Alright, so she was not in fact shot, she was just tased.
I believe she was struck after getting up from being tased, ma'am.
Ah,
Yes,
alright.
she was shot. Awkward silence.
One moment, please. So, did you advise Mr. Delmar while you were trying to get him up against the wall why he was being detained?
No, ma'am. I said he was being detained. He ran from me prior. That's why I was trying just to get him in handcuffs so he couldn't have a chance to run from us again before we could speak to him.
And would you say that you were screaming in a way that would be frightening?
No, ma'am. I did not find it frightening.
But were you speaking calmly or were you in fact shouting?
Madam, I was being loud. I was trying to control the scene, trying to get Mr. Delmar. There was multiple people. I was trying to get his attention to get up against the wall. I was being very, very stern with him, madam.
There you go.
All right. So at the time that you had him against the wall, you had your taser in hand, correct? Were you aiming at him?
No, ma'am, I didn't. The only time I aimed at him is after he pulled a weapon.
All right. No
Nice,
further
dude.
questions?
Mr. Braun?
I do have some further questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Oh shit,
Trooper
mate.
Brown, so you did know my client's first and last name at the time you sought to detain him on 3/14th. Is that correct?
Sir, on 3/14, I did actually not know his legal last name. I called him by the incorrect legal last name. But I did know his name was Otto.
You did know
I don't know
his
if I'll
name
win,
was
dude. I
Otto,
can't
so you
do
did not
much.
have a last
All I can
name
do is
when
watch.
you
I did
called
not.
his
I
name
called
at
him,
Pillbox.
It would be fucking great
Otto
if it got
Delaney.
removed,
sir.
though.
That was what I was.
Otto Delaney.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you had an incorrect last name, though, that was given.
I had an incorrect last name, but I could not confirm it personally, sir. I just Trooper Ripley, sir, was the one who said he was Otto, but I could not confirm a last name. But I believe it was
Okay.
also Mr. Ripley who said last. I believe it was Ripley who told me his last name was.
The other
Delaney.
cop shot the EMS, I believe.
Now we know Delmar, but
Okay, so with possession of a first and last name, would being that you were back on duty and back in service, would that not have been a good time to put out a bolo or a arrest warrant for one Otto Delaney? And get
sir, actually,
some
when
of
I
these
did get on duty on
details in writing.
When I did get on duty on 3/14, sir, it was a hectic day. I did not have time to do paperwork. I normally do that at the end of my shift.
Wow, dude.
I did, however,
Negligence,
check
bro.
on TD for an auto, and he did not have any type of anything served at that time, or incidents or crimes for the night previous, or any other encounters like you said, Mr.
That's negligence, dude.
I see.
Ban him.
Okay, Trooper Brown, I have nothing further.
Miss O'Sullivan?
Nothing further.
Right, Trooper Brown, you may step down at this time.
Thank you, Your Honor.
They haven't said that I spat on the cop yet. I did spit on one of the cops. That guy right
Mr.
there,
Braun,
chat.
do you have any more witnesses?
This guy has Hep B, by the way, and he doesn't know
I'd
it
like
yet.
to call Clarence Williams to the stand.
That guy's got Hep B, and he doesn't know yet, chat.
Deputy Williams.
Look at him. Look how ill he is. He's
First,
fucking
sir.
teleporting. That's how much Hep B he's got. This is the cop we spat on.
Then approach to be sworn.
This
in, sir.
guy's got Jackie's Hep B. That guy's got Hep B, and he doesn't even know it.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you, Jess?
Yes, I do.
Been sworn in, Your Honor.
Thank you, bailiff. Deputy Williams, I don't have to remind you this time, but you are under oath, sir, and perjury is not tolerated in my courtroom.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Braun?
Yo, Kulos, thanks for the
Proceed.
Twitch Prime. M-Doll, thank you for the sub, dude.
Thank you. Deputy Williams, I only have a few questions for you, relevant to you being the arresting officer here. Referring back to previous testimony, Mr. Delmar, was he ever charged, or was it ever discussed, the situation on 313, him apparently fleeing from Trooper Brown?
No, he was not charged because there was no active warrant, and due to the situation, I was unable to discuss the events leading to his potential detainment.
Was Trooper Brown present during his arrest?
Yes, he was.
So you were able to discuss with him the reason for the stop in the first place? If he had wanted to discuss that with you?
Ooh.
Yeah, I spoke with him, and he explained that Mr. Delmar fled from him the day before. That was the only information that I had.
Right. Resisting
go.
arrest, evading, potentially.
Yeah, he didn't charge me for it.
Either
This
one
is
of
the
those charges might have been appropriate in that case. But again, the question is why was Mr. Delmar not charged?
There was just a lack of discussion between myself and Trooper Brown. I'm sorry, and I didn't have the information needed to add any extra charges. And with everything that had happened, kind of dealing with everything that happened at the hospital was kind of just the concern at the time.
Yeah, he's putting holes in the
Right.
case, but it's still a 50-50, I think, either
The
way.
very reason that my client, Mr. Delmar, was stopped in the first place, that just kind of fell by the wayside. Just kind of weren't worried about it anymore.
I guess, yes, you could say that. Things escalated when your client pulled an Uzi and shot at officers.
Sure, of course. All right, I got nothing further for you, Deputy Williams. Thank you.
Miss O'Sullivan?
The awkward silences are good.
No questions.
All right, Deputy Williams, you may step down.
Yo, Deathridge, Jada, thank you for the subs, guys. If I'm found guilty, nothing. My record just stays the same. I really don't care. I just sort of wanted to
Mr.
do it
Braun,
for
do you
roleplay
have any
reasons.
more witnesses to call at this time?
I rest, Your Honor. No further witnesses.
All right. Miss O'Sullivan, do you have any witnesses to call?
No witnesses, sir.
All right. Are both sides prepared to move on to their closing, or do they need a few moments?
I could use
I
a
am
moment
prepared.
If... I could use just one moment.
By all
if
means.
If you wouldn't mind.
Do you object to that, Mr. Braun?
By all means, if she needs a moment, I'm happy to recess.
All right. I'll place this court in a 5-minute recess.
The fact that there's a lot of holes and stuff in what the police have said gives us a chance, but I still don't think we've got a very good chance. Well, I mean, we've got somewhat of a chance, but I don't know. I
ahead and
personally
call
don't know
this,
the law for this shit, and I don't want to know
court
it for
back
this
into
reason.
Session at this time. Are both sides prepared to give their closing arguments now?
Yes, Your Honor.
God, back to type it. All right, Mr. Braun, you may proceed with your closing.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honors, ladies and gentlemen of the court, I'm going to keep this brief. Miss O'Sullivan is prepared to retry my client on the charges. Serious though they may be, he has already served his time for and paid his fine. His debt to society is cleared, and he wishes to move on as a law-abiding citizen and a decent person. The reason we're here today is not to undo the actions my client took or to argue that they weren't taken at all. That's not what this is about. This is about a situation that could have been avoided, or at the very least could have been better justified by law enforcement in carrying out this detainment without probable cause, reasonable suspicion, or any sort of paperwork whatsoever verifying that my client was a person of interest in any way. The police report says he apparently fled. I'm not going to do another repeat of the word apparently, but that is all that is there to show that my client was justified in being detained aggressively in the manner that he was while he was at Pillbox Medical seeking medical attention. He simply asks that those charges be expunged from his record, because if he had been some citizen who did not happen to have a large weapon on him and did not happen to behave in the manner that he chose to handle the situation, if he had just been some citizen that complied, we would still be here in court today. I would still have taken his case, and I still would be in here calling into question the decisions of Trooper Brown in choosing to detain my client, who was minding his own business and handling urgent medical care at the hospital. He was not acting suspicious. Mr. Scaletta was not acting suspicious. Based on basically hearsay, he was detained for questioning without cause. And for that, we must come here and ask that those charges be expunged, and my client get a second chance to be a respectable citizen in this city, and that hopefully he will not be unfairly and unduly accosted by law enforcement without any sort of warrant, any sort of probable cause, or any suspicion whatsoever. Maybe in the future, police will leave him alone unless there's a reason to talk to him. Because all we've heard today is Trooper Brown's personal, verbal recollection from memory of events that happened around the time he got stabbed. I don't think that's enough. I don't think that's enough to hold up. And again, I sincerely believe my client's rights have been violated in the manner that he was detained, and unless there's some document that shows otherwise, I feel we need to expunge those charges. Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Ms. O'Sullivan, your closing, please.
The pressure.
Excuse me.
You're a cunt, ain't you?
Ladies and gentlemen, honorable judges, a good
Oi.
man does not need to carry an Uzi. Fact remains that Mr.
Has
Delmar
nothing to do
did
with
in
the
fact
case.
attempt to murder Trooper Brown, and he was in fact carrying a Class 2 weapon. There is nothing to suggest that these crimes should be stricken from the record. Mr. Delmar was detained with probable cause, as Trooper Brown laid out quite plainly in his testimony. Mr. Delmar was seen with powder on his face, was acting suspiciously, and he fled when asked for identification, a fact that he admitted to on the stand. He was positively identified the next day and fairly detained due to the information given. And what did he do? He responded with brutal violence, something that he, despite his words, appears to show no actual remorse for. The people today would like to just
Fucking
point
poor
out
me.
that,
I'm being
Mr.
slandered.
Delmar's
What the
rights
fuck?
were not
Leave me
violated
alone,
in any
dude.
way. He was treated fairly, and he reacted unfairly. Thank you.
I don't know. I mean,
Thank you.
really, we're probably going to get fucked,
This
but
court in recess. Well,
Murphy
I
did tear them up,
reach a
though,
decision
which
in
is
this
good.
appeal. Court is in recess. This time I've reached a decision in this appeal, and I'm going to break things down very thoroughly, and it will show you how I reached my decision. We're going to start
Yo,
on
help,
the
thanks for the
first
750,
night,
man.
The initial interactions between Trooper
I think we're going to
Brown
lose,
and
to be
Otto.
honest, but we'll see.
Brown had an interaction with a man who was
Just wait till I
acting
see it. Wait till you...
fidgety, a little nervous, had some sort of white substance. Trooper Brown asked the man to see his identification. The man did not give his identification at that time. First of all, can everyone hear me? I want to make sure of that
Yes, Your
while
Honor.
I talk.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Sir.
I wish I had my gun.
The gentleman, Otto, Mr. Delmar, did not give his identification, got in his vehicle, and took off. Then we go on to the next day. Trooper
Aye.
Brown locates Otto again at Pillbox Medical Hospital. Gets out of his vehicle with a taser. Approaches Otto. Otto feels he's pinned. He's backed up against the wall. He did claim that in his testimony. Which time Otto takes out an automatic weapon and sprays down the law enforcement officers in question. So, it is the belief of this court that Trooper Brown acted within the scope of the law in continuing the initial interactions that he had from the previous night at the Vanilla Unicorn, continuing on when he spotted Otto at the hospital the next night and went to go and detain him and speak to him about the previous actions from the night before. So, with that being said, this court is going to uphold the original conviction
Why did this take
that
so long?
Otto was charged with. This case in this court is dismissed.